Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we sift through information, pull out the really useful stuff just for you.
That's right.
Today, learner, we are diving into the Easy English Podcast for Beginners YouTube series, specifically the first 10 episodes. Think of it as, well, your quick guide to understanding some really core English grammar and vocabulary, too.
Yeah, it's a great series for building that foundation. We're going to look at present simple versus present continuous.
Yeah.
The difference between habits and right now.
Okay.
And the past simple of be, which is fundamental. Then regular and irregular past verbs.
Right.
Adverbs of manner, how you do things.
Yeah.
Also clarifying much, many, a lot of. That trips people up.
Always.
Plus, those modals like must and should, the present perfect tense. Oh, and gerunds versus infinitives.
Okay, quite a bit then.
And phrasal verbs, too. Just an introduction, but yeah, it covers a lot of ground.
Exactly. So our mission here is to give you a solid grip on these key ideas, get those aha moments without feeling swamped.
Yeah, make it stick.
Okay, let's dig in. Episode 1, present simple versus present continuous. What's the core difference here? Really boil it down for us.
Well, it really comes down to the time frame and the type of action. Present simple's your default for habits, routines, things that are generally true.
Like facts.
Yeah, facts or long-term situations. The podcast mentions we live in Manchester. That's seen as pretty permanent, so present simple.
Right, a steady state, kind of. So present continuous.
That's for things happening right now, this moment, or temporary situations. Like Katrina in the podcast saying, I'm on holiday, or we are staying in a small house. Clearly not permanent.
Got it. And the structure is always that be verb plus the ing verb.
Always. Am, is, or are, plus the main verb with ing. So are staying is shining, are enjoying. That ing is your big clue for an ongoing action.
Okay, but then there's this curveball. Stative verbs, the podcast mentions them. What's that about? Why don't they usually use ing in the present?
Ah, good question. Stative verbs describe a state like being, feeling, thinking. Not really a dynamic action. Think be, know, like, believe.
Okay.
Because they describe a state, putting them in that continuous ing form often sounds, well, weird. It emphasizes an ongoing process that doesn't quite fit. So, it is very hot describes a state. Fine.
Right.
But it is being very hot sounds unnatural for just describing the current weather.
That makes sense. It's about what the verb means, fundamentally. Now, the podcast also flags words that often signal present simple.
Yeah, those adverbs of frequency. Things like usually, often, never, hardly ever, normally, rarely. They fit perfectly because present simple often talks about how often things happen, routines.
Makes sense. And present continuous,
Right.
It's not just for right now, is it? It can look ahead.
Exactly. You can use it for future plans or arrangements. But, and this is key, you have to be pretty sure they're going to happen. Like Katrina saying, this morning we are going to the beach. It sounds like a definite plan.
Okay, clear. Let's shift gears. Episode 2, past simple of be. Seems basic, but super important.
Oh, absolutely fundamental. And luckily, there are only two forms to worry about in the past simple. Was and were.
Right. Was for.
Singular subjects, I, he, she, it. So I was, he was.
And were.
For plural subjects, you, we, they. And also you singular, actually. You were, we were, they were.
The podcast used film examples, right?
Yeah, perfect illustrations.
All right.
The last biopic I watched was First Man. Biopic is singular, so was.
Okay.
The script was excellent, singular script. But then the special effects were impressive. Effects plural. So were.
It really just depends on if the subject is one thing or more than one thing.
Exactly. And the negatives are just wasn't, which is was not, and weren't, were not.
Like the plot wasn't interesting.
The actors weren't very good.
Simple. And for questions, you just flip the verb and subject. What was the last film you watched?
Simple, but you got to get it right. Okay, episode 3 moves on to the main past simple tense, regular and irregular verbs. Right? Regular verbs are mostly straightforward. Usually you just add ed to the base form.
Like play becomes played.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The podcast lists created, joined, changed, fired, released, screamed, decided, died, loved, wanted. All regular. And if the verb already ends in E, like decide, you just add ed.
Okay, that's the easy part. But then, the irregulars, the rule breakers, is it just memorization?
Pretty much, yeah. They have unique past forms you just have to learn through practice and seeing them used. The podcast highlights some key ones. Went from go, found from find.
Was and were from be, which we just did.
Right. Made from make, thought from think, had from have, cried from watch the changing to I, came from come, shot from shoot.
So, quite a few common ones. And making negatives in the past simple, for most verbs anyway.
Use didn't plus the base form of the verb, the infinitive, without to. So not went, but I didn't go.
Right. Didn't have, didn't think, didn't want.
Exactly. And questions usually use did before the subject, then the base verb. Did you go? Did they see?
Got it. Moving on to episode 4, adverbs of manner. What are these telling us?
They tell you how someone does something, how the action is performed. They add detail to the verb.
Like?
Examples from the podcast: talk politely, see easily, work hard, run fast. Also negatives like doesn't work well, or describing bad actions like drive dangerously, or good ones, get around safely.
And the standard way to make them is just adding adly to the adjective. Polite becomes politely.
That's the most common way, yeah?
Yeah.
Easy becomes easily. Notice the your changes to ack. Dangerous to dangerously, safe to safely. That aptly is a big clue.
But not always, right? There are irregulars here too.
Yep. Some adverbs look exactly the same as the adjective, like hard and fast. You work hard, you run fast. Not hardly or fastly. Hardly means something else entirely.
Right. Hardly ever.
Exactly. And some change completely. The adverb for good is well. You do something well.
Okay. The podcast mentioned rarely. Is that an adverb of manner?
It is an adverb, but it's one of frequency, like often or usually.
Right.
It tells you how often, not how in terms of manner. Good distinction to keep in mind.
Right. Frequency versus manner. Okay. Episode 5.
Yeah.
Much, many, a lot of. Always a classic confusion point.
Definitely. The easiest one is a lot of. You can use it in positive statements, affirmative sentences, with pretty much everything.
Countable and uncountable nouns.
Both. Countable, like a lot of Australians, a lot of countries.
Mm.
Uncountable, like a lot of power, a lot of patience. It's very flexible. And lots of is just a more informal version.
Okay, so a lot of is the safe bet in positive sentences. What about many and much? Where do they fit?
They tend to show up more in negative sentences and questions. Many is for countable nouns, things you can count.
Like?
Aren't many kangaroos, how many countries, that kind of thing.
I know that.
For uncountable nouns, things you can't easily count individually, like liquids, concepts, materials. So don't have much patience. Doesn't contain much fat. How much fat?
Is there a formality difference too?
Yeah, the podcast notes that many can sound a bit more formal than a lot of. In everyday chat, a lot of people is probably more common than many people, even though both are correct.
Good tip. All right, episode 6 brings us to modal verbs. Must, mustn't, should, shouldn't. Obligation and advice, yeah.
That's the core idea. Must is strong. It's about obligation, necessity, rules.
Like, everyone must buy a pass.
Exactly. Or you must drive carefully. It implies it's required or very important.
And mustn't is the opposite, a prohibition.
Right. Something is not allowed. You mustn't go faster than 45 kilometers. You mustn't feed them. And remember that silent T when you say it. M-cent.
Got it. M-cent. So what about should? Less strong.
Much less strong. Should is for advice, recommendations. What's a good idea?
You should definitely visit.
Perfect. Or you shouldn't rush. It's advice, not a strict rule, suggesting the best way.
And shouldn't is just negative advice. You shouldn't get too close.
Exactly. And a key grammar point for all these modals,
Yeah.
they don't change form. No S for Heshite.
Ah.
And they're always followed by the base form of the main verb. No to. You must go, not you must to go.
And questions.
Just invert, flip the modal in the subject. Should I go? Must we wait?
Okay, makes sense. Episode 7, present perfect. Often tricky for learners. What's the basic idea?
The structure is have or has plus the past participle. Think verb form number 3.
Like go, went, gone. Gone is the one.
Exactly. And the main idea is connecting the past to the present, often used for experiences where the exact time isn't stated or isn't important.
The haggis example from the podcast?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of haggis? Yes, I have heard. The focus is on the experience of hearing about it, not when it happened.
And those past participles, some are regular ads, some are irregular.
Right, like visited is regular.
Yeah.
But irregulars mentioned include eaten, been, which is tricky. It's the participle for be, and sometimes go.
Yeah. Context is key there.
Definitely. Also gone only from go. Learned or learnt, both work for learn. Made, experimented, tried, convinced.
Good to know about learned and learnt, and the difference between been and gone.
Been usually implies the person went somewhere and came back. I've been to France. Means I went, and now I'm here telling you. Gone implies they haven't returned yet. She's gone to the shop. Means she's still at the shop or on her way.
Useful distinction. Any words commonly used with present perfect?
Yeah, the podcast mentions never and recently. They fit well because they connect past possibilities or recent events to the present without needing a specific timestamp.
Okay, which leads us perfectly into episode 8. Present perfect versus past simple. The big showdown. What's the golden rule again?
A simple version, present perfect past action, no specific time mentioned, or time isn't the focus. Past simple, completed past action, specific time mentioned.
Ryan's ice hockey story illustrated this well, didn't it?
Perfectly. He says, we have even won some trophies. Present perfect when? We don't know. It's about the experience.
Okay.
But then he says, we won a local tournament a few years ago. Past simple, because a few years ago gets a specific time frame.
Right, and he used present perfect for things like, I have made some really good friends. Again, no specific time.
Exactly. Contrasting with past simple, like I started playing when I was a child, or I played every Saturday, or in 2015 we beat, all have time references.
So often a conversation might start general with present perfect.
Have you ever played ice hockey?
Mm-hmm. And then shift to past simple when giving the details.
Yes, I played for 10 years when I was younger. Exactly. It's a natural flow.
And they snuck in a review of fast and quickly, too. Nice touch.
Yeah, reinforcing earlier learning, always good. Now, episode 9, gerunds versus infinitives. The ing form as a noun versus to plus verb. How do we know which one to use?
Yeah, this can feel a bit random sometimes, like why love drinking but need to have.
It often depends on the first verb. The podcast highlights verbs, often followed by the gerund, ing form, things like love, like, hate, don't like, imagine.
So love drinking, like drinking, imagine living. The ing feels like the activity itself.
Kind of, yeah. And then there are verbs usually followed by the infinitive, to plus verb, like need to have, would like to have, learn to make, often implies purpose or a future action.
What about prefer? The podcast mentioned that one.
Yeah. Prefer is flexible. It can take either the gerund or the infinitive, sometimes with slight meaning shifts, sometimes not. Also a good rule of thumb, after would like, would love, would prefer, you generally use the infinitive.
So I'd like to go.
Right. But honestly, as the podcast suggests, a lot of this comes from exposure, noticing patterns as you listen and read, rather than just memorizing lists, though lists can help at the start.
Makes sense. Okay, finally, episode 10, common phrasal verbs. What exactly is a phrasal verb?
It's basically a verb combined with another small word, usually a preposition or an adverb, and this combination creates a new meaning, often totally different from the original verb.
Like look means see, but look after means take care of.
Exactly. Matthew's surfing story in the podcast is full of them.
Let's run through a few they mentioned. Hang out.
Means spend time relaxing, informally. Surfers hanging out at beaches.
Take part.
Participate. Professional surfers come to take part.
Work out.
Exercise. Surfing is a great way to work out.
Get up.
Leave bed in the morning. Some people get up early.
Put on. That had a couple of meanings.
Yeah, wear clothes, put on their swimsuit.
Yeah.
Or start music TV, put on some music,
Mm-hmm.
and can often be separated. Put their swimsuit on.
Right. Switch off. Also two meanings.
Mm-hmm. Relax. Stop thinking about work or stress. Switch off after a busy day. Or literally stop power to something. Switch off the computer. Synonym is turn off. Opposite is switch on or turn on.
Okay. Watch out for.
Be careful of. Watch out for sharks.
Go off.
Make a sudden sound like an alarm. Shark alarms go off.
Keep on.
Continue. Keep on trying.
Knock you down.
Force you under the water like a wave. Waves to knock you down.
In give up.
Stop trying. Don't give up.
Wow. Yeah. They pack a lot of meaning into those little combinations. Context is everything, isn't it?
Absolutely. Seeing them in a story like the surfing one really helps make the meaning clear and hopefully more memorable.
Well, that was quite the journey through those first 10 episodes. We've hit a lot of key English grammar points and vocabulary.
We certainly have. And for you, the learner, the goal was to give you a clearer, more solid understanding of these fundamentals, not just the rules, but kind of how they feel and work in practice.
Yeah, those light bulb moments. We definitely recommend listening to the actual Easy English podcast episodes now. With this overview, you can really tune in to how these things are used naturally.
For sure. Go back to the ones that caught your interest, or maybe the ones that still feel a little fuzzy.
So, as a final thought to leave you with, thinking about everything we've unpacked today, from verb tenses to phrasal verbs, what one area of English grammar or vocabulary feels maybe a little less daunting now?
And building on that, what specific thing are you going to focus on exploring or practicing next? Something to